Hi, I'm Scott Jackson. I'll be moderating this panel. We really appreciate you guys up here. So we have Josh Snow. He's the president of Trace Networks. They're owned by the Chickasaw Nation. Everyone here in Navajo land knows Tico Charlee, and he was gracious enough to do our pre-conference workshop yesterday. And then we have Robert Griffin of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma as well. And so this is the carrying on with the pre-conference workshop for those that were here, the Plan It, Build It, Connect It. And there's a lot of different ways to service your citizens in different various models. And how did we get here? What are the challenges? I know that Robert and I were talking, and the question comes up on grants, and he says, hey, we want to win these grants, and who do we call to win a grant? And as we talked about yesterday, guess what? The big tier ones have 250 people working on getting as much of the government money as they can. They have algorithms that know what words they need to put in the grant applications that makes people want to give them the grants. And so there's things like getting the funding after the vision. I know Josh and I were talking about, hey, he also has some precision agriculture. We're going to have to do some things there because of the pecan farms and all the farming and agriculture to feed people. And how does that work? We were chatting about that after Michael's comments on his little low-speed LoRa networking thing, right? Thought, man, that could be very interesting. So, and then Tico, he's managing 5 different ISPs, right? So I thought we'd start and let Robert, to Tico, to Josh kind of introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about your network, and then we'll kind of move on from there.
Halito. So I've been working in the telecom industry for 2+ decades, various CLECs, large carriers. And about 4 years ago, the Choctaw Nation approached us when I was working for a regional fiber operating company. And we talked about getting an award for USDA Community Connect for around $3 million. And the reason that we did that is because we had a school with 300 kids in it that was connected to the internet via a satellite. And of course, that doesn't work very well. And so that plus about 100 other residents in the area, we filed that application with all of that detail and information. We were successful in receiving the award. And about 4 years later, we're looking to turn up our first customers here this summer. And so a long, arduous process. They might say it's easy, but I say it's not. But with that, we're able to extend into another award for Reconnect 4 and, add another 800 customers. And all of these locations fall very easily in the FCC mapping process as unserved. So the type of connectivity that's coming out there is all XGS-PON, fiber to the home, symmetrical delivery, and then we're going to add our 2.5 network for the area that we can't reach with fiber to the home. So with that, we'll be able to turn up about 1,000 customers within the area. And, this area has no internet connectivity whatsoever. And so part of my job also is to coordinate with about 18 different carriers that are in the region. It was mentioned earlier that not all reservations are the same. We have multiple towns, communities, and different populations within our reservation, which is about the size of Massachusetts. So, it's a difficult process to manage through that, but we've found a lot of partners. We've been very successful at these events, understanding the technology, finding out the right conversations to have, finding the right vendors to work with, and, very grateful to be here to help and keep that process going.
Tico.
Good morning. My name is Tico Charlee. I'm of the Siskalaatni Pataatni Tobaha Taduj Inni clan. And our reservation is about 27,000 square miles in 3 different states. And we are the only regulatory group in the nation of all Indian tribes that the FCC recognize. And you want to see our team? I have my assistant here, Thomasita. Can you stand up for a minute? This is the regulatory team. There's just the 2 of us here. And we work with the 5 different service providers and bringing them together. I worked with the private sector group for a long time. Everybody teases me, calls me, he's the old horse, because I came in from the steppers now to the soft switches. So I know how that goes. And I did do a lot of climbing. I was excited about the fiber portion on there. And the Navajo Nation put its first fiber in 1989 when they first put it in. And when we did that, we said it was 4 strands. And the first thing they said was, you don't need any more fiber. Now we got 405,000 registered natives, and 180 of them are on the reservation. So we got to put all that together, and we have about 244 schools with about a little over 30,000 students on the reservation and a little over 40,000 off the reservation on border towns. So when they come to, they come to us here, and we kind of said, how do we do our Wi-Fi? So we end up putting out 109 Wi-Fi out on the reservation on there where the students and everybody can come in. That was during the COVID portion on there. The saddest part about that is we even went to the hospitals, and the hospitals used their iPad to talk to family members outside. And some of it is very heartbreaking, but, at least we were there putting it out for them, and it was free of charge. So we cover an amount of, different equipment that goes out there. And it's just like anything else, the more stuff you put out, the more things are going to break. And that's what happened. We got to regulate a lot of those on there. We got about 1,500 towers out there, and about 800 of them are legal. So we're still in the process of going across and said, how did you guys get here? So we're doing that right now, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So we ended up meeting with all the service providers again, and the very first thing I told them to do, leave your ego at the door, because you're gonna have to come in here and sit down with us and tell us where we can go with this on there. And the first thing I said, can you guys produce 120 or 100 symmetrical? The service provider said, yes, we can. Okay, prove it. Here's the money on there. The tribe got its portion on there with the NTTA grant on there. I'm very happy with the NTTA grant. We got 90 million. So that in itself, it creates a lot of other trouble. And don't even get me started on the BIA portion on there, because we had to do a lot of right-of-way issues, and we got about 20 different types of land, and they call it the checkerboard area. So we got to go through that, and that takes time on there. Time doesn't stand still for anybody. So we do that on there, plus the tribe got X amount of money through the bipartisan portion, and it was 1.2 billion. So when they did that, we had everybody coming out of the woodwork. So we had to filter those out on there and see how they can work with the tribe and see how they can, I guess you could say, follow the process. But it's not always on the outside. On the inside on there, we have a good leader. Our new leader, Dr. Nidran on there, is very, very focused and very keen on technology. And his portion was, if you come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution also. And let's think outside the box and see how we can do this. Which was really good, because I was so happy to go in with all these problems and say, here's our solution. What we found out was we can always be our own worst enemy. There's a lot of bureaucracy that goes on. So the size we are on there, we're looking at streamlining a lot of stuff on there and make it faster and quicker. And that's what we're doing right now with the right-of-way. So thank you again.
Thank you. We will circle back to some of that, but Josh.
Yeah. Chokma, hello. I'm Josh Snow, president of Trace Fiber Networks. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of the Chickasaw Nation. We incorporated in 2017 as a LLC, part of our diversified business program, and we started construction and finished right in the midst of COVID in August of 2020. And basically, we migrated all of the circuits that the national carriers, the AT&Ts and Verizon of the world, were providing to the nation, to the Chickasaw Nation, over to our network, and that's really where we, wrote the ROI. That was where the return on investment was at, was being able to displace our current carriers over to our network. And so, I have to say, I've got part of my team here. If you guys want to raise your hand, I've got the procurement and grants team. I wouldn't be up here today if it wasn't for a great team that supports me in lots of different ways. Real quick, because I know we're limited on time. Trace started as a middle mile. When all the opportunities came out in grant funding, we obviously wrote out applications for that. We were fortunate enough to be recipients of the NTTA Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program Round 1. We got $50 million to do 2,784 Chickasaw homes. And then we were also fortunate enough to apply for Reconnect 4. We got just under $25 million for that. We're going to go by about 3,000 more passings there. So we've got an opportunity here to really kind of, migrate from being a middle mile provider to a last mile provider.
That's awesome. So obviously, staying with the theme of this, it is the Plan It, Build It, Connected. And as you see in the program, vision and assessment, engagement with the cost modeling. So Josh, I'm going to go in reverse to you because you already talked about we started as a middle mile.
Right.
We're owned by the Chickasaw Nation. You had a need. We're transitioning those circuits over from the big guys that didn't want to service the community, obviously. So there's your vision. You knew what you had to do. And so the next phase is developing a plan to build. How did you get the partnerships? How did you get to connecting customers? Just to give the audience a little idea, hey, we want to do this, but here's the next step of the build. And then we'll kind of move on, and I'll go to Robert next or something.
Sure. Thanks for that. So, yeah, I mean, I think, it's probably different for a lot of different tribes as far as how, you're organized. And I think Tico spoke to that. But certainly for us, I mean, it was about local partnerships, getting the local buy-in, the communities. He was talking about right-of-way. And it's great to come to these conferences because you think you have problems until you listen to somebody else. And so you kind of feel better about where you're at. But, that's it. That's huge for us. And I would say, from a planning perspective, know what you're going to do with the money. How far can you go with it? And that takes, doing a desktop design. It takes, probably getting it down to a high level design and being able to feed those number of passings into your feasibility study. And that's the core of where your application needs to be is that do you have a return? Can you be sustainable based on the amount of dollars that you're asking for and the amount of homes or passings that you're going to have? I mean, that's where you're going to live and die by, and that's what a lot of the things from a grant application is what they're looking for, is that sustainability.
Awesome. So, Robert, I'm going to you. So you're further back in the infancy of where Josh was at, essentially 2017 to 18. I'm sure there was planning years, but in that time frame. So now you're going to do the first 1,000, and you got to pick your partners, and you got to develop that plan to build. So where are you at in that stage, and what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm grateful Josh and Tico have already been through this, so I can just call them and see what all the mistakes were, and how the challenges were overcome, because they're really good at doing that. And what we do is we go to the community and we ask the community, what's the need here and why do you need it? And we find the same answers that everybody knows about: education, telemedicine, remote work. And, with that, we can get the commitment from the community, which in our case, it's an integrated community of tribal members and the population that lives there. And, once they know about it, and some of this was about the marketing as well, that, with our brand name within the community and the things that we do outside of just broadband services and building casinos, we invest in our infrastructure. We build bridges, roads, fire stations, donate checks, help with financial support through accounting practices to small businesses. And so a lot of that is just spreading the word. And then when you do that, you get a lot of feedback. And, I'm really looking forward to the digital equity piece, because once you bring on new users, you have to figure out a way to train them on how to use the internet as effectively as possible. Because if you bring connectivity to someone and they don't use it, it's not really getting all the value out of it. And so we're going to work hard on delivering that part of the business. And so, again, I'll call these guys, a lot of the tribal leaders. Tico is the co-chair on the Fiber Broadband Association with me. And we're fortunate because we get to talk to a lot of tribal nations across the U.S. and we're constantly getting feedback and information. And, all the information we have access to, we're trying to pass that along as well.
Awesome. Before I go to Tico, since you brought up the FBA, they are the co-chair of that. I'm on the board of directors. In fact, Fiber Day on the Hill, I'm leaving for that after here in a little bit. But they are the two co-chairs of that. And for the first year, any tribal nation has free membership for a year. Kim Rickard is out. She's got a booth. She will help you out, right, to get information. We are a partner to Godfrey and the NTTA, right? So we'll move forward to the last thing. I guess we're getting close to the end. But Tico, you mentioned, so he has a mature network with five network operators that are working with him. But there could be some other perils on the back end. And he mentioned this yesterday, so I'm stealing from something you did yesterday. The ACP program. So a lot of poor people can apply for it. Now, you'll talk from the nation only. You lost $3 million a month, I think, from ACP, and you explain that. But as a network operator, there's also a cost. The network operators were fighting tooth and nail to keep the ACP going because it costs Josh and it costs Robert every time they connect and disconnect the customer back, if it ever comes back. So if you want to talk about the impact of how great the ACP was, because NTIA is here and everyone's listening to you, and what it meant to your community, and we'll end on that because I see Godfrey's giving me the stink eye.
Okay, I'll be real quick. The ACP on there, it really affected the Navajo Nation on there. 70% of the service providers were pushing out the ACP. And when we total all that up, it comes out to a loss of $3 million a month. So equivalent that per year, you're looking at about $36 million that the tribe has lost. So we did work with Ben Ray Lujan's group, and I've been in contact with them, and they just told me that, no, it's gone. But there is a small window. I said, can we squeeze through to see what we can do? And there's already different plans to see how they can, replenish that portion on there. So we're hoping for that. We're pushing for that. And we're constantly meeting with Washington office to see where they are with Congress on there.
Awesome. Well, I know that Godfrey's getting ready to do a break, and I think we have time for some questions. You got the pros here from Dover, and that they can ask questions. They'll be around for a while. And the partnerships, the plan, building, connect. Godfrey, if you want to send us the break, if anyone wants questions, I'll hand this mic over to you. But I will thank my panelists, but if there's any questions, I'll let you lead the question session before you break.
My question is for the representative of the Chickasaw Nation. I know that the McGirt decision allowed the Chickasaw Nation to reestablish their original reservation boundaries. But my question is, I know around Purcell, Norman, that area, the Oklahoma Electric Co-op is laying a lot of fiber optic cable right now. So, and I know you have communities, Blanchard, Purcell, Ardmore, all over. How do you deal with getting fiber optic cable to those communities when you have already a lot of infrastructure there, like the Oklahoma Electric Co-op has? It seemed like that would be a problem. How are you working with Oklahoma Electric Co-op and other providers to get services to your members?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad that you just mentioned the McGirt ruling, because I am not an attorney. We could probably spend the rest of the day talking about the impacts that has had in Oklahoma and tribal country. But to your question, yes, there have been historically several providers inside of the Chickasaw Nation. Everything from legacy phone companies to, as you mentioned, co-ops that got into the broadband business, several years ago. And so, they certainly will become competitors of ours. And so, we can't cover everywhere. We're trying to be very intentional on where we go, and that basically is where are the federal dollars, where are the grant dollars paying for, and that's unserved and underserved. And so that's what we're looking into. And so I hope that answered your question. Be happy to follow up with you a little bit more after this.
One thing to say to this gentleman. So he mentioned electric cooperatives and a partnership, which is not really a public-private partnership. It's along the same lines. So Eagle Pass, Texas, I know for sure because our friends of Gray Bar at Farr, Texas, which is a municipality, the Eagle Pass folks came down to Farr for their State of the City. And I know that I think it's the Kiowa tribe, but I'm not 100% positive, are trying to figure out the money that they're getting from the government to partner with the cooperative in the city of Eagle Pass and that whole area. So if you want to be connected to someone, I can definitely get you to the person that, hey, we're trying to partner up with multiple entities, and you can kind of see how are they doing it. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm just aware they are, and they're very forthcoming with their information. So